Hi, my name is Darnell-Jamal, and I'm a fashion historian, curator, and host of The New Rules. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day amongst all this content out here to be with us. In each episode, it is our pleasure for you to join us in provoking and genuine conversations about the plights of our various guests from all over the creative field and around the world. With that said, if you have a question that you want to ask our guests in upcoming episodes, we welcome you to either drop it down in the comments below or visit the Lions Management Instagram page and my own Instagram page to respond to regular open calls for questions through our Instagram stories, or you can just drop them in our DMs. Links to our pages are down in the description. With your questions, I plan to create the dialogue, and who knows, your name and question might be mentioned in the episode. Remember, The New Rules is a series with tangible conversations constructed by you. Yes, you. I'm just a vehicle to get the answers you need to inform your own journey. So do not hold back. Join in the conversation and help me build these talks in the way they should be, where you learn what you deserve. Now, let's get started with the show. Hello, my name is Darnell-Jamal, and I'm a fashion historian and curator here to provide you a little bit something new, hopefully, in your content scrolling as we're, still in quarantine, still, in this moment of transition. We're living in this incredible time of overdue change, especially in large part, obviously, due to the pandemic and, of course, the constant racist attacks and discriminatory attacks on marginalized communities across the world. These changes are occurring in all systems that are guiding our lives. And some of us that are creators, educators, storytellers, whoever, we're really pivoting collectively, trying to find ways to illuminate diverse narratives that reflect the world that we live in. And I know many of you are looking for some sort of blueprint, some sort of guidance to figure out this next transition in your life, whether you're entering into different creative fields or fields across the board, or making just a pivot because of the pandemic, because of this time. And that's where I come in. So I want to welcome all of you out there to the first of what I hope of many episodes of the series called The New Rules, where the only rule that I have is there are no rules. This series I plan to bring creatives, entertainers, artists, people from across the board in one space to really collect and give you tangible information that you can take on your own journey and inform your own practice. And so today I want to introduce our guests for our first episode, which I want to thank so much, the time that we were able to get this together for jumping on board. I want to introduce our guests. The first we have the dynamic actor, always stunning, Ilfenesh Hadera. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Darnell. I don't know about always stunning, but very kind of you to say. Thank you for having me. This is great to be on this, to have this really important, timely talk.
Of course. And I feel that way because I follow you. So I'm like, always, you're amazing. So I'm out here looking, a little ratchet all the time. And she's incredible. So I am just in awe of everything. And I'm so thankful for you to come. And I also want to introduce our other guest, Louis Pisano, a fashion commentator and also equally stunning, Louis Pisano. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, Darnell. I'm really, really happy to be here with you. You're someone who every time I read what you write, I learn so much about fashion history. So it's really an honor to be here with you today.
Oh my gosh, I'm a fan of you. See, I'm out here trying to be like you two when I grow up. So I'm still trying to figure this out myself, to say the least. So, but before we jump into like a fun little warm-up game so that the public can get to know both of you, I want to also engage all of you out there with this little experiment of the new rules. So today, of course, a lot of the questions will be coming from me. I will be guiding the talk, but typically that's not really what I want this series to be in the long term. For me, I want this experience to be audience built. I want you all to submit different inquiries that you really want to know from each guest from week to week. So, with that said, let's move it into our fun little warm-up game just to get us a little kind of shaken off. You know, I call this game Keeping It Real. It's just a fun game where I give you two options, one or the other. You have to make it. I give you 30 seconds each to answer all of the questions. We're going to try to get through all of them. And, you know, just so that the public can get to know you a little bit and just have some fun. So, Ilfenesh, I'm going to throw you in the deep end first.
All right. Throw me in, baby.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. You're a New York lady. Uptown or downtown?
Uptown. Come on.
TV roll or silver screen?
Silver screen for change. You know, I've done, sorry, now I'm going to talk forever. I've done series for so long that it would be nice to get back on the silver screen sometimes.
Oh, okay. Jay-Z or Nas?
I mean, Nas. Sorry, Jay. I love them both, but that's my guy.
Art school or self-taught?
A little bit of both. Can I say that as an answer?
Sure.
Yeah.
She's Gotta Have It or School Days?
Why would you do this to me? We must pay homage. God, this is a hard one. They're both classic Spike. I gotta go School Days. I know I'm gonna get grief for this because of the She's Gotta Have It fan, but School Days holds a special place in my heart.
There. And the last one, Godfather of Harlem or Baywatch?
Oh, I mean, this is a terrible thing. This is like cruel to ask. Apples and oranges. This is really an unfair question that I feel like I gotta like plead the fifth on.
See.
Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, we won't talk about which poster is behind me right now in my house, but
see,
that's all I'll say.
I love it. No, it's fun because I watch both. It's you know, I think both exude different aspects, like different characters. Like it shows like the range of who you are. And I think that's something that I really want to get into today, later on, when we talk about maybe some of your first projects, you know, how you transitioned into them and how you're able to kind of pivot from one space to another, because they're vastly different, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to make this the most cheesy thing I say all morning, but apples and oranges is really kind of what you want with your career, right? A diverse body of work is the dream and the goal. So to have Baywatch and Godfather is kind of like, all right, let's keep this rolling this way.
I love that. Well, Lewis, it's your turn.
Hit me with your best shot.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Vogue or Harper's Bazaar?
Harper's Bazaar, obvious reasons.
Tradition, Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Christian Dior or Cristobal Balenciaga?
It depends which designer at Dior you're talking about.
Rosé or champagne?
Rosé all day.
McDonald's or Burger King?
Oh, McDonald's.
Mugler or Alaya?
Mugler. The Mugler girl.
And last one, Lady Gaga or Meg the Stallion?
Oh, that's not fair. Oh. I'm gonna have to say Gaga just because, you know, longevity, like, you know.
Fair enough. Look, I'm not a part of those. I love them both, so you know, I'm not getting any blowback. No, I'm kidding. Oh,
right?
It's the worst. My friends always say I only get people in trouble twice a year: at Christmas and during my birthday. So you know, this is like another time where they don't have to get it. So throughout today, among the different topics that we're going to touch, a major one that we're going to really kind of get into the nuances, understanding not only your journeys, but to understand the role of race and how it plays a factor and where you and how you have become the people that you become, and also if there is, any kind of navigation of exploitation, or you feel that there was some exploitation there, or if not, we really want to get into those nuances, because I think there are a lot of creatives out there that are in this very middle ground space where they're looking at and challenging everything that they see, and rightfully so, because the systems that we all work in were never inherently for, marginalized, particularly Black and brown bodies initially. And so we're coming into these spaces really kind of making our own lanes. And that's really the root of what I want to get into today. So with first, and I would love for both of you to answer this, what was one point in both of your lives, and Louis, you can go first, that you felt and you realized that this was your purpose, whether it's being a fashion commentator for you, and of course, Ilfenesh for being an actor, but what was that moment, in time that you felt like this is what I really want to take on in my life, in my career?
I mean, I've had so many different moments because I do so many different things, but I think when I really started to sort of put more advocacy first than just solely, fashion commentating or writing about, what the girls are wearing, was probably 2 years ago in Milan, where I was sort of in a transition in my career. I wasn't working in fashion PR anymore. I was like very independent in what I was doing, and there was a lot of issues of like racism and lack of diversity. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I have to speak my mind, like fuck all the connections I may possibly like lose. Someone has to like say something. I am not the one that's gonna sit here and be quiet. And there was a really specific event for Lewis Hamilton with Tommy Hilfiger, in which Black people were not being treated the same as white people, as a white guest. There was a very noticeable difference in how they were being treated, and I spoke up about it. I was like, I know this is possibly gonna, really damage my relationship with, the media partner or whatever. But I was like, you know what? Like, someone has to finally say something. For so long in the fashion industry, people have sort of been afraid of the old guard or the people that are in power. And for me at this point, I was just so frustrated. I was just like, I'm gonna say something, and you know what? If that's the end of it, well, you know what? That's the end. I said my thing. I can go to sleep at night knowing that, like, finally somebody brought this issue to light, and it kind of snowballed from there, and it turned into this whole, thing where there began to be open dialogues between fashion brands and creative of color. In Milan, they started, involving a lot more Black influencers and influencers of color in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was at that moment that I was really like, you know what? Taking like a risk like that, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm in a space in my career where I feel like I have so many different outlets I can do. So if one door closes, I have other doors. But as long as in that space before I close that door, I say my piece and I get out the message I want to get out, I'm good.
Right. And I think that's interesting piece that you were ready to sacrifice, whatever connections that you had in order to kind of make that pivot. And that's something that each individual is going to have to make a choice if they're confronted with that, particularly those of marginalized elks. They're going to, if there's a situation that happens and you want to navigate in a space that is just authentic to you, sacrifices is very integral. But we're going to hold on to that piece and circle back to that a little bit later. But Ilfenesh, I would love to know, what was a moment in your life that you really felt like this was your purpose to really kind of bring joy to people through the medium of acting?
I mean, I'm going to answer this question a lot more selfishly than Louis did. And it's, I think if you find something, if you're lucky enough to find something that brings you joy and brings you fulfillment, and not only kind of inspires you to keep going, but to reach higher, right? I think that you have found your purpose. So I found that in acting, you know, and in the moments where I've kind of seen momentum gathering and seen the hard work kind of paying off, those are the moments that I felt like this is my purpose. This is what I was put here for. Obviously, life is more than just work, but our careers and our passions are a huge part of our happiness. You know, our dreams coming to fruition. You know, you can't deny that is a great. You know, it's purpose, right? It's purpose found. So I think in those moments that I've seen everything kind of coming together, I felt like this is my path. And let's continue on it.
And to that, I would love to know, you know, what was that one project that made you feel, Ilfenesh, you know, that I have a foot in the door. Like this is like this is where I know that I can use this to my advantage to take it to the next level in my career.
There's always this feeling, for me at least, and I know with a lot of other actors, you think you get this one job and it's going to be like your breakout role, and you're going to work for the rest of your life. But there's always a sense of kind of like each job you get your foot in the door, but like maybe the door closes again for you, right? And like maybe it feels like a false start. But I will say that and this was about, I'm going to say this was 7 or 8 years ago, I got just a really random audition from a manager I was working with at the time, who was sending me out on largely commercial jobs, you know, the EO plays and the you know, Best Buys and this and that, which were, you know, great money jobs, but didn't really scratch the creative itch. For a Spike Lee audition for a pilot he was doing for HBO with Doug Ellen. And I booked that job. I had no credits to my name in film or television at all. I had a long theater resume, but that was it. And Spike took a chance, and I've been in the 40 Acres family ever since. You know, we've been constant collaborators for the last almost decade now. So that, although there have always been challenges and feeling like I've got to do more and things aren't happening enough, I've always felt really embraced by that family, and that is a great community to have been embraced by. So that was probably the one job the pilot didn't even end up getting picked up. But, you know, it's a lesson that it's not about that. It's about relationships made and maintaining those relationships, I think.
I think that's so key. And I think also in Lewis, your life, you know, relationships and networking is really kind of the foundation of how, you know, how someone like yourself is able to thrive. And could you, you know, talk a little bit about maybe like the first time where you were like, okay, I think that this is going to get me to that next step for me as a fashion commentator. But because I feel like it was definitely in the PR realm, but could you speak a little bit more to that?
Well, I think for me, when I really, you know, the fashion commentating thing, because I kind of divide that from, you know, my fashion commentating on social media, and then when I'm like, you know, actually writing for a publication. And I think, I don't know, there's been so many little moments. I mean, they're big moments to me, but they're very, like, you know, small in the big scheme of things. You know, when you have people in that space that you look up to, that reach out to you to always ask your opinion on, you know, things that are happening in the pop culture realm or the fashion space or in terms of like diversity and inclusion, you know, for me, that when that started happening, I was like, oh shit, like this is like, I mean, this is not just me, like, you know, rattling off some tweets. Like, people are actually like coming to me wanting to know my take on something that's happening on the here and now, and like people are gonna read that and like, you know, I have to say specifically, I remember specifically, it was Evan Ross Katz asked me my opinion. This was a few days before Rihanna the announcement of Fenty with LVMH came out. And he emailed me to ask if I would give a quote for Playboy about, what did I think about the possibility of Rihanna having a line with LVMH. And I think for me, that was like, oh, like, wow, this is not just me on Twitter just like talking about Rihanna all day. Like, this is actually like in a publication that really value my opinion on what do I think is going to be, what's going to happen with, Rihanna and LVMH. And I was like, oh, well, okay. I have to do it like in the moment. I need to do it like in real time. It needs to be like my initial like thoughts. I don't like when it's like, okay, like, would you like to write about this? And it's, the deadline is in like a week or so. I'm like, no, I need something that's happening right now, and I will like crank it out within like 12 to 24 hours. Because it's like I just have to get out like my gut like reaction to things. Like when I write about, um when I did the thing that got me the Harper's Bazaar gig was, like something that, I'm known for or whatever on social media as my like red carpet reviews, or, identifying like fashion looks as like things are happening. And I remember I woke up that morning, watched the bootleg version of Black is King because I didn't have Disney Plus. And as I was watching it, I was screenshotting and I was posting on Instagram. Like I was identifying the looks. I had like Vogue Runway open. I was like, looking through all the like thousands of tagged pictures of Beyonce in case like some, smaller designer had like, posted their look within the film. And yeah, I think and especially for that, my like goal was like, I have to get the looks up faster than Fashion Bomb daily. I know it sounds awful, but like for me, it was like it was also testing myself and how well I could identify fashion, looks, collections, designers. So I did that. It was like within like, I don't know, like an hour or two after the film had come out. Um, all of a sudden, I get this DM. I get this DM from the fashion director at Harper's Bazaar. Like, I need your email. We have this like piece we need to do. Like, it needs to go out like by like the day after tomorrow. We want to interview like Beyonce's like stylist. Like, everybody's been sending me like your story. They've been seeing them reposted by everybody. Like, we need you. We need you because you have like, you're a Beyonce fan. And I was like, okay, yeah, send me the email, tell me all the details. And then like 20 minutes later, Beyonce's stylist, Zarina, is in my DMs, and she's like, oh, damn, you're so fast with these looks. Can you like take over my Instagram? So I was like, all I did was wake up and like watch the movie and like start posting stories, So, I mean, that was a truly like wild day because I did not think by the end of the day that like I would be DMing with Beyonce's stylist and have a job at Harper's Bazaar.
That's incredible. You were very narrowed and focused. I remember when you did that, I was like, okay, this is something. And then, of course, the interview came at Harper's Bazaar. It was incredible. I said that this is clearly something in the making, and I congratulate you on that journey. And Ilfenesh, I there was something that Lewis mentioned that I feel like is something that carries on into your discipline specifically as well, and this idea of repetition. For Lewis, repeating in using this as more or less an exercise for him to identify different designers, to identify, to be able to identify all the looks, to identify all the references and whatnot, allow him to grow within his process. And I'm curious to know, specifically in acting, how important that is for you, for yourself, and then additionally, for you to come into like the 40 Acres family in that first pilot. What was that journey and that process there in preparation for you?
I'm really lucky to have grown up in New York City, and I went to a wonderful performing arts high school. So that was, and even before that, great elementary school and public school system on the Upper West Side that really valued the arts. So, while I didn't know that I wanted to be an actor while I was in first grade, I was always exposed to arts and theater, and just walking down the streets in the city, there's music everywhere and dance everywhere. So I went to Dance Theater of Harlem around the corner from me. So all that exposure definitely planted the seed. But in terms of, taking matters into my own hands, I've found really early on my path. And I feel really lucky for that, because it made things a lot more simple than if I had been, toying with the idea of doing this and toying with the idea of doing that. So I kind of knew the steps I needed to execute to get me where I wanted to be. So after high school, I decided I didn't want to do the conservatory route. I felt like, after 4 years at LaGuardia, I'd kind of wanted to expand and learn some other things. But I did a minor in theater in college, and then I went to grad school for theater at Rada King's College. So I did the work. You got to put the work and the time in. If you can't expect overnight success, it seems like it happens to people. Maybe they shoot some indie and then are like, that's a total star maker, but that it didn't happen for me that way. And then once you, like we said, get your foot in the door, it's about showing up prepared and, with a good attitude and with gratitude. So you kind of never stop preparing for the next role, right? Like we said, in our industry, relationship is so important. So once you're in, you have to keep on, your reputation precedes you. So I think to be with someone who, to be someone who people like to work with and like to collaborate with is just, you've got to continue, and is always part of your preparation, really.